Hi everybody, welcome back to another episode of our Dungeon Boss PvP series. Today we're going to take a look at preserving your streak against all odds. And so what I'm talking about here is ultimately when you get into your raid menu here, and let's just say you're the type of person, kind of like I am, I like to run the all lefts at the early part of the season just so I can get my trophies up, get the max streak, and just try to play it easy with the simple raids. Go as far as I can for as long as I can to try and get into Legend 1. That way if I don't want to spend the rest of the season PvPing, I really don't have to. So for the most part, what I'm talking about here is ultimately if you're an all left kind of guy or gal, and you are doing some PvP, and then ultimately you just run up against three brutal meta teams that you just can't seem to get by. And so rather than trying to risk something with maybe a team that you're not familiar with, I'm going to stick with one of the teams that I had been using pretty much almost exclusively. And I kind of mentioned it a bit last time, and that's the notion of the Perma-Rez team. And the reason that I'm using the Perma-Rez team is having taken time off the game for 6 months, I missed out heavily on some major players in PvP. So I don't have a 6-star Panda, I don't have a 6-star Craw, and those are two big folks that really help get past some of these meta teams, dealing with the silence that Panda does, and also using the silence yourself. If you have both of those guys, you likely have a lot more options in terms of PvP than I do. Additionally, looking through some of the teams, there's a lot of newer runes that came out in the last 6 months that I just flat out don't know what they do, so I tend to err on the side of caution. Now, the reason that I'm saying that this is a PvP streak preservation is because most of these raids, when you use a Perma-Rez team, are not going to be very fast raids. And so if you're looking at grinding through and getting to the top 100, you're probably already good enough that you don't need my videos to get into the 100 if you're already into the 100. So this is not going to be a speedrun team. So for the most part, you're using this just in the event that you just don't feel confident in your skills in order to clear the team that's there, and it could be a hit or miss or something like that. And so this is what we're going to look at. We're going to just assume that all of these are basically the same defense, and that's usually what it comes down to. Is you run into three opponents, basically all of them are the same. And so it doesn't matter if you go left, right, middle. It's equally likely that you're going to win or lose, and you don't want to risk that. So we'll pretend that I'm a max streak, and I run into something like this guy here. This here is a very common defense that I'm seeing a lot lately, and even more so, let's ignore the fact that it's these four specifically. Probably the single most common thing that I'm seeing these days is the tank rune on Lily. It's bothering a lot of people. I'll be honest, it's bothering myself as well. There's certain teams that I've been just kind of skipping just because the previous Perma-Rez team that I wanted to use with Agnon, because Agnon can pretty much one-shot anybody, I've been foregoing that because with the taunt on Lily, basically it ends up forcing you to either waste Agnon's turn or you end up trying to wait it out a little bit, and it just doesn't work out very well in the long run. So the team that I've been using now is a little bit more to deal with the fact that Lily has a taunt on her early. So basically your first turn is going to be not really a first turn at all. You're just kind of sort it out and wait. So the team that we're going to highlight today, and assuming that you have all these people, is Solaris and Leo for the Perma-Rez, Lily for her durability, and Arya pretty much for everything else. There's one very critical component here. If your Arya is weak, underpowered, or ill-equipped with runes, you may have a hard time finishing this one out, because what you need is an Arya that's capable of dealing significant damage to Lily, so that if she's constantly having her plant growth up and the sapping vines, she constantly heals herself, and it can be tough to get past that final threshold. That's what part of what takes us so long, is you kind of have to go one by one, defender by defender, and Lily is almost always left for the end because she has her oak form and she just constantly heals herself. She's a tough one to take down, and none of these heroes that we have are real heavy hitters like an Agnon where it would one-shot her in any case. So we're gonna basically pair this together with our sapping vines and the repeated attack after attack after attack with Arya. That's what makes this team so formidable. Side note, this team here that I'm using will absolutely obliterate barbarians. If you find anybody that still has a barbarian team in PvP, basically just have an Arya out there. She pretty much kills them all in the first turn herself. It's quite something to watch. So when we're looking at this particular team here, the order of our heroes doesn't really matter because they have Panda, so there's silence and everything. Lily's going to get her attack off regardless. Public enemy number 1 is going to be Pont. Ponty is a unique one because if I understand correctly, he can destroy some corpses, which is a big deal. You can't have Perma-Rez if your guys are dead. But notice how Arya retaliated against that, and that's going to happen almost every single time. It actually should happen every time because he's off balance. And Pont, the way that people build him as far as a glass cannon, he just can't hang in there against Arya. So what's going to happen is Arya retaliates him, kills him, and then ultimately what's going to happen is Lily will finish him off, and then he'll turn into his little skeleton, which is basically a pushover. No big deal there. So right out of the gate, Ponty's neutralized. You're going to have to deal with a ton of retaliation from Arya. So there have been a few really high rune power teams where the combination of Arya and the Panda have really caused me problems and killed me probably faster than I expected. A lot of times, the only other thing that's really going to hurt you with a Perma-Rez team is if you start getting some kills out of order. If you find yourself with Leo dying more than he should, you really need to pump up some damage reduction. You need to pump up some bulwark runes and ultimately get his health higher so he can last longer. If you have him dying before other people, you're running into a severe risk of this team just not working. So attack Lily, no big deal there. Arya's going to do her thing. She always does. She's basically going to die from sapping vines. There's really no concern about her unless her damage is so high that you just can't soak it. So there's their sapping vines. That's going to happen. So in this case here, looking at it with my retaliation with no diseases or anything like that, Arya did very little damage to her, and that's perfectly fine. We're going to be slow playing this one anyways. Like I said, this isn't a speed run. This is more so of we want to save our streak at all costs. And their Arya, I can tell already, is fairly potent. She beat on my Lily pretty hard. So we're going to be hoping pretty hardcore for our sapping vines to take her down. I'm leaning towards the fact that she's mostly geared towards as much attack as possible, and maybe not as much on the defensive side. I can't really guarantee that because I didn't look at the runes. That's kind of one of the things I do. Usually the only runes I'm checking these days are to see if there's a taunt on Lily. And that's just my play style. So obviously if I would have paid more attention, I might have got a sense of what Lily was doing. But for the most part, I've been confident against this team that I was going to be able to beat it regardless of what the runes were. Looks like their Panda might be geared towards a glass cannon as well. Usually Panda is the third of the fourth to go down. In this case here, he might go down first actually. So remember with Perma-Rez team, your guys are going to be dying a lot. Hopefully your Leo is strong enough. Remember, my golden rule is don't ever taunt with Leo. It's not worth it. It's only going to screw things up in terms of rotation, and you're going to end up having him die when other people are still alive. You just don't want to do it. In this case here, I sometimes like to throw the magnified light debuff on there. It's pretty handy if it actually hits, because then Arya does her thing and just whomps them. But with the evasion that Lily gives, it rarely hits anyways, and it's not really a big deal for me. So if it hits, great. If it doesn't, no big deal. I'll usually save that later towards the end when I'm trying to take on Lily and finish her off. I also try to avoid attacking Arya directly unless for some reason you want one of your heroes to die. In this case here, I don't necessarily want my Lily to die right away, because if you ever run into an instance where you have 3 people dead, there's always a chance that Solaris isn't coming back, and that's ultimately one of the RNG factors you have to deal with. If you have decent dodge and decent health and stuff on your heroes, most of the time you can guarantee that Solaris is coming back with a death blow and not have to worry about her not coming back. Because almost always when Solaris dies, she's getting hit hard by all of those guys, which means her fury is almost always going to be at 100%. There are a few instances where it sometimes hits at like 98%. In that case, those are a lot of times the losses, to be honest. Golden rule here, besides never taunt with Leo, is anytime Leo is dead, you revive him. There's no let's try to heal Lily type thing or try to heal Arya. It's a complete and 100% waste. If you waste this turn, I guarantee you somebody's going to gank Solaris on the next turn and you're done. That's it. No questions asked. So always revive Leo. That is the only purpose of having Leo and Solaris is for the Perma-Rez. They don't need to heal. They don't need to buff you. They don't need to debuff you. Don't worry about any of those things. The only purpose of those two, I'll say it again, Leo and Solaris are only there for Perma-Rez. You don't need to worry about damage with them. You don't need to do taunting. Don't do anything other than Perma-Rez. So now there's no taunts up. I can really try to attack whoever I want. They're all evasion. Most likely, I'm going to try and hit Ponti and kill him. That should be your goal. He's always public enemy number one. If he comes back, resurrection, it just ends up making things more problematic. At this point here, usually Arya has gone down, but I'm guessing their Arya is very formidable. So I'm going to try and hit that last couple of hit points on Panda and see if I can take him down. If he dies, he dies. If he doesn't, he doesn't. The sapping vines should take care of him. Okay, now we're sitting in a good position because we have a fully stocked Leo. He's going to bring people back. They still have a very strong Arya, but I'm at a point where I'm feeling good about our chances here. Remember, we usually don't want to attack Arya directly just because she retaliates and retaliates and retaliates, and then when she's done retaliating, she retaliates some more. The other thing that I don't generally like to do is our One with Nature. This is a really great buff to put on because it will, obviously return damage to them. But with my Lily almost dead, she already went through her Oak form. It seems kind of pointless to use. It's only going to go on Leo right now. I would like to have it up on as many people as possible, so I'll wait for the next mass res to come around before I actually do that. And then if you wanted to try and do the Pollen Cloud, to me, this is mostly a waste. I'm not usually trying to dodge too many attacks unless I run into an instance where I'm feeling like I need to avoid damage. If Leo and Solaris are both down, for example, and I need just one more turn for Solaris to bring them both back, maybe that's an option. But otherwise, I usually prefer just to try and get an epic attack out there instead. In that case, I did. And then the retaliation damage from the One with Nature killed her. No big deal. Solaris comes back with her natural resurrection. And then our Fury is back, which is perfect because we'll be able to res both of these guys, and Leo is already at full health. What we also could have done, we could have just did some basic attacks if we wanted. Either or is fine. If your Leo is already topped off, not too much of a big deal, because this might be one of the instances where I choose to taunt just because Solaris is down and she's going to be out for a couple of turns. But ultimately, my next game changer here is to get Sapping Vines back out. With Sapping Vines back out, that'll ultimately be able to take on their Arya. Always heal with Leo if you can. He doesn't have a lot of health to begin with unless you've really pumped that up. But we're dealing with just a couple of turns here of the Sapping Vines, and that's part of what takes forever is the Sapping Vines continually heals them and ultimately does damage to you as well. So I'm going to leave my Sapping Vines at the moment because I want to wait just a little bit for a better scenario, really. Ultimately, when we're trying to take on somebody that won't die, like their Lily, or in this case, their Arya, you want to be able to pair those things together and chain your best stuff together. So in my case here, I want Arya to be alive while Sapping Vines is up. And like I said before, because of all the damage that's taking, the Fury is almost perpetually at 100%. So down goes Solaris, back comes Leo, and we're right back at it again. You're always going to be dealing with this evasion here. Nothing you can really do about it other than have Sapping Vines. If you were brave and took a dwarf instead of Arya, you run the risk of getting killed by Ponti instead, but you'd be able to take Arya without any problems. My Arya is no longer debuffed. I don't think she is. So I can try to attack her. It probably is not going to end up well. She's going to retaliate or something like that. But notice how much health she took from the Sapping Vines. That's a good thing. But now all my people are off balance and paralyzed now, so don't throw attacks on Arya anymore. Anytime I can try to paralyze, I try to. Paralysis is excellent for this team. There goes Arya. Now it's just a slow play to victory. So the goal here is ultimately to stay alive and then time your attacks and such so that you're not dealing with one with nature and the evasion. It's a real pain when you're dealing with a really tough Lily because it can be a nightmare to try and bring her down. In this case here, I do have one other team where I use Hagram instead of Arya. Hagram can at least benefit from the one with nature, but the problem is he dies faster than anybody. I have him as a pure glass cannon, and he just flat out cannot survive. The paralysis, if you can ever get paralysis off on Lily, it definitely helps because it prevents her from doing one more of those turns. Like sapping vines, it not only hurts you, but it helps her. That's one of the main problems here because it's going to whittle down my guys. I have to worry about making sure Leo is topped off. This is one of those scenarios where because there's no evasion up and there's no one with nature, I would likely take just a quick gamble to do this. Generally speaking, if we let this run its course, Leo and Solaris aren't going to do enough damage to hurt her. But I want to do some extra damage while she's still paralyzed and while I still have the advantage in terms of no debuffs. The risk you run, though, is ultimately when I sacrifice Solaris, Leo's already half dead. If Leo takes significant damage from the vines, we're really setting ourselves up for disaster here. So I'm going to take a risk here. Just know, disclaimer at this point, had I not done this, I'm 100% confident in winning this raid. So in the event that something obscure happens because I'm taking this risk, just know that you would have won this raid at that point. So we're going to try and ultimately get some extra damage out of Arya now and see if she can do this. Yep, that's exactly what we want. Because you have to remember, we're still dealing with Oak form on their Lily too, so we have a long way to go. And that just reiterates the point at the very beginning. This is not meant to be a speedrunning team. This is meant to be, thank goodness I got by my streak, and now I can maybe wait an hour or two to see if the raids reset. That's ultimately what you're looking at. Always heal with Leo if you can. Remember, don't forget that rule. Evasion doesn't matter at this point here. What hurts us the most, at this point here, definitely do not waste your revive, because Leo's almost dead. Just don't do it. Let her run through her thing, do sapping vines, let her do one with nature, let her do the evasion, all of that stuff. Just let her do it. And like I said, it's going to take a while to whittle her down, but we definitely will. I know it can get a little bit boring at this point here, but the name of the game is just getting through it. Sun Worship, remember we want that advance, or that extra light damage, but I'm not going to risk doing it while she's still evading. Seems kind of a waste because it takes forever to get that energy point back. Once we can get that to hit though, then Arya's going to do some way better damage. It's just a matter of timing everything properly so you can actually get the attacks off. If we could at least get to the point where we're done with the Oak form, that's ultimately what I need. I need to get to the point where I can actually kill her. Now Arya's dead, so I can't do my... I'll probably do it on the next turn. Evasion should be... Nope, evasion is back now. So that's the hard part to balance. Doesn't look like it with the way the buffs are listed, but evasion is still definitely there. If I use my attack there, it probably would have been wasted. I'd just be waiting on another cooldown. So my evasion, really not that helpful because it ultimately... I was getting hit by the sapping vines. Remember, always heal with Leo. He's always got to die last. And you can see what's happening here, why this takes so long. You run into a few unfortunate circumstances, and all of a sudden, their Lily starts healing back to full health. So now, we should be in a good spot, because she doesn't have her evasion anymore. Leo's got his turn, Arya's up. I'm finally at a point where I can actually get some amplified damage. And this is over 15 minutes in. If you need to take, if you need shorter time for doing your raids, like I said, you're kind of on your own there. But like I said, I'm feeling good about where we are in terms of winning this raid. And we'll try and wrap it up in the next minute or two here. If we can get 1 or 2 really good retaliations, she's going to be toast. So this should be 1. There's her Oak form. And she lost her debuff, which is fine. We at least know we can kill her now. And it also lets you know kind of where you're at in the rotation, too. Once she did that, she's going to end up doing her, what do you call it? The pollen cloud. That's going to be coming. There it is. Another retaliation. At least at this point here, we can hope that maybe Arya hits. Evasion is a fickle friend. Again, my evasion doesn't really matter because it's always after the sapping vines. So you can get prime there if you want to. It really doesn't matter. There's the 1 with nature, so we can expect both Lily and Arya to probably die. Leo heal next turn. And here we go, get some more off balance. This is really to prep for the next go around when Arya comes back. Again, do not use your revive here. This is a dangerous position we're in where Leo and Solaris both have low health. Because if Solaris dies first, there's always the chance that she doesn't come back. That's always the risk you run when running a Perma-Rez team. So do that. Give Leo just an extra little bump. Solaris is going to die. Should die here. Now we're okay, probably. Solaris has full stacks, so she's coming back regardless if she's rezzed or not. So I'm feeling good about that. It's actually better if she didn't. So we're just waiting on Leo to kick the bucket, which he will. Sapping Vines is going to kill him. No sense healing because we actually want Leo to die in this case. Okay, so now I'll bring Leo back. Hopefully we've had enough turns where the Leo's first ability is up, and then we can ultimately get some extra attacks on. So we still got a couple of turns before that happens. Arya's dead again. What I'm planning on doing here, though, is we're going to put out the sapping vines to mitigate her health recovery. And then we're ultimately going to do our resurrection with Solaris to try and see if we can get amplified damage. Yep, see, here's one instance where it's not full yet. Doesn't happen a lot, but I guess that's where we're at. So the time that we wanted to revive the most, it's not there. Fortunately, we have the sapping vines to mitigate some of that. Again, probably don't want to waste my ability just yet, because I can't do anything until Arya comes back. And this again goes back to one of the things I said at the very beginning. If your Arya is weak, it's going to be tough for you to close out this raid. And I'm admitting right now, it's my Arya is mostly defensive and such like that, so she's not the highest attacker. And when you get a Lily with full stacks and she's evading and you can't hit her, it can be very difficult to close out. So this particular team with Arya, I don't use it as much. At least against this particular team, I don't like having to deal with trying to close out against a Lily like this. So we're going to be bringing Arya back on this turn here. And it's unfortunate that we have to do it this way because Lily's about to die anyways. But I'm hoping that we get retaliation damage like that. And one more turn like that, and assuming that we hit, and their Lily's going to be down. Of course, we have the one with nature, I'm guessing, is what killed. We're making progress, though. I'm running out of commentary because this is taking too long. Okay, Solaris has full stacks, so I'm not too worried about this one here. So we'll try and get a little bit more damage coming back here. Again, what we need to ultimately do is to pair up time-wise to hit her when she's not evading, when she doesn't have one with nature, and we can throw up our sapping vines. You get all three of those things to line up together, and that's ultimately how we're going to close her out. Now she's basically back to full health again, and she's got one with nature. So we're going to wait one more turn for Leo to come back, so I'll just try and throw some evasion on there. It's pointless anyways, but we'll put it out there. We will also, let's try to paralyze her. It's never a bad thing. Pretty much try to do that every time it's available. But ultimately what I was looking at here is I was waiting for Arya to die. That's the problem. Because I didn't want her to be able to essentially not attack. And I want that one with nature buff to expire, which it seems like it's always there. Same thing with the what do you call it? The evasion, the pollen cloud. Anyways, what I'm going to do, I'm going to wrap it up here. It's been over 20 minutes or so. I'll run the last bit of this and fast forward so you can see the end of it. But I'm not going to sit and bore you with any more commentary. But like I said, this particular team is extremely durable. It's a way for you to try and just eke out a win when you need it the most. But don't plan on using it to burn through raids. It's just not going to work that way. There's better variations of the Perma-Rez that deal more damage. For example, Agnon is one of them. We probably could have gotten by in this one with Agnon, provided that we didn't run into anything where somebody's getting killed too soon and we couldn't kill Ponty. So if you have any questions, comments, concerns about this particular team, or if there's a specific defense that you're looking to beat that you just can't, maybe you don't have the heroes that you need, such like that, feel free to leave those in the comments too, and then we'll look to see if I can find any of those, and I'll show you how I've been handling them. Until then, we'll see you next time. All right, thanks. Bye. Thank you so much for watching this video and supporting my channel. If you like this video, please show your continued support by hitting that like button, and be sure to check out both my YouTube channels for new content all the time. And always remember, peace is a lie, there's only passion. We'll see you next time.